Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we've all been there, stuck in a disagreement where nobody's willing to give an inch. So today we are going to unpack what happens next. We're talking about civil litigation, which is the formal, structured way we resolve disputes when talking just isn't enough.
So let's just dive right in. Picture this. Two people, or maybe two companies, are at a total deadlock. They've talked, they've argued, they've tried to find a way forward, but nope, it's a complete standstill. Where do you go from there?
Well, you've got a couple of paths you can take. There are the informal routes, right? Things like negotiation or getting a mediator involved to try and help you find some common ground. But when that doesn't cut it, you're left with the formal path, litigation.
Litigation, then, is pretty much the last resort. But what does that word even mean? What actually happens when you step into this formal process to finally put an end to a dispute?
Okay, so here's the key difference. Unlike a negotiation where you're trying to agree, litigation is totally different. This is where the court system steps in and a judge imposes a final decision. And that decision is binding. You have to follow it. Now, for a court to make a huge decision like that, the process can't just be a chaotic free-for-all. Oh no, you should think of it more like a refereed sport. There's a very specific and very important rulebook that absolutely everyone has to play by.
And that official rulebook is called the Civil Procedure Rules, or the CPR for short. This is the manual, the guide, that lays out exactly how every civil case is supposed to be handled. It's what keeps the whole thing orderly and predictable. So the whole point of the CPR is to provide this crystal clear, step-by-step framework. It tells everybody involved, the lawyers, the judge, you, what to do, when to do it, and exactly how it needs to be done.
And we're not talking about some dusty old legal text from 100 years ago. These rules are actually pretty modern. They were brought in back in 1998 to completely overhaul the system and make it, hopefully, cheaper, faster, and just easier for everyone to navigate.
But here's where it gets really interesting. These rules aren't just a boring checklist of procedures. They're actually built on a core idea, a kind of philosophy that guides every single action and decision within the court system. And that core philosophy has a name. It's called the overriding objective. Think of it as the spirit of the law, the ultimate goal that the entire system is trying to achieve. And there it is, straight from the CPR itself. The number one goal is to enable the court to handle cases justly. That one word, justly, is the sun that the entire legal system orbits around.
Okay, so justly sounds great, but it's a bit of a vague word, isn't it? What does it actually mean in the real world, in a courtroom? Well, the CPR actually breaks it down for us into clear, concrete principles.
So these are the ingredients for justice. It's about making sure everyone's on an equal footing, keeping costs down, making sure the punishment fits the crime, so to speak, moving things along quickly but fairly, and using the court's precious time wisely.
So, first up, the rules are designed to level the playing field. The court has to actively try to correct any kind of power imbalance between the two sides. And this is the perfect example of why that is so important. It's the classic David versus Goliath situation, right? The rules are there to make sure that a regular individual has a fair shot, even if they're up against a massive corporation with a whole army of lawyers. It stops the bigger player from just steamrolling the smaller one. Next, we have the principle of proportionality. And honestly, this is just common sense. It means the amount of time, money, and effort the court puts into a case has to match what's actually at stake.
I mean, look at this. It makes perfect sense. A simple little dispute over a couple of £100 isn't going to get the same full-blown court treatment as a massively complex multi-million-pound lawsuit. The response has to fit the problem.
And finally, the last few pillars are all about efficiency. The system pushes to keep costs from spiraling out of control, to get cases resolved without endless delays, and to make sure the court's limited resources are used in the smartest way possible. So, when you put all of that together, what's the big takeaway? It's that civil litigation isn't meant to be some chaotic, unpredictable fight. It's designed to be a structured, clear journey guided by these principles of justice, all aiming for a fair and balanced resolution. And believe me, everything we've talked about is really just the beginning. These same rules, the CPR, also govern all the critical first steps of a case. We're talking about strict deadlines for when you can bring a claim, the exact steps you have to take before you even get to court, and even how to properly identify who you're actually suing. Which kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. We have this incredibly detailed, principled system, all designed with fairness at its very core. But even with the best rulebook in the world, How close can we really get to achieving perfect justice for everyone, every single time?